missed anyone? Good. I've missed things before. I've not been perfect, and in fact, probably made more mistakes than most. But I want to say I found those final submissions to be very useful for me. Thank you for taking the time to think it through and give me some of the key issues, because again, I won't repeat it all the time, but I've got a little pressure to get at doing some writing. And it's nice to know what's going to be coming in, at least in general forms. And if you can get your submissions in early, they won't be turned back. I can assure you. We've extended the time at the request of some, but it is, I'm not going to shy away. It's very challenging to get this written because my hope is that once it is written and provided, there will be enough there that even if you don't agree with me, the facts will be there, the evidence, the analysis and fact-finding. But ultimately, these are very difficult issues. They overlap, and people could have different views and will have different views on these things. But I can assure you I'll do the very best I can. Now, this brings the fact hearings of the Commission to an end. It was, believe it or not, 43 days ago I first convened these hearings. Since then, we've heard from 75 witnesses, filed numerous overview reports, witness statements, witness interviews, and have introduced over 7,000 documents into evidence. You're a bunch of lawyers. I've rarely seen something that happened in February that has reached this point after less than 10 months. It is an amazing feat. Time has flown by. I'm sure you're the same. At least I hope some of you agree that it wasn't boring. We've managed, albeit with long days and some very late evenings, to stay on schedule. And we've met what you've probably heard me say too many times, our unique timetable. And for that, I'm most grateful. Most importantly, I'm satisfied that I now have the evidence that I need to make the factual findings and to answer the questions I've been mandated to ask. Namely, why did the federal government declare the emergency? How did it use its powers? And were those actions appropriate? These are questions that, as I said at the outset, the public wants answered. And I'm confident that I am now well positioned to provide those answers. I'm also equipped to report on the additional issues as mandated by our order and council. The evolution of the goals of the convoy movement and broader protests and their leadership, organization, and participants. The impact of domestic and foreign funding, including crowdsourcing platforms. The impact, role, and sources of misinformation and disinformation, including social media. The economic and other impacts of the blockade and the efforts of police and other responders prior to and after the declaration, always to the extent that these issues are relevant to the circumstances of the declaration and the measures taken. It
was important for me to hear the points of view of those who took part in the events or who were affected by those events. I'm very happy to have had the opportunity to hear those points of view, and I'm waiting for the written observations of the parties now that will help me in concluding the work of the Commission. I'm happy that we could lead those hearings in an open and transparent way, not only for the parties, and the councils and the media, but also for the numerous Canadians who took this opportunity to see the hearings either in person or through our direct broadcasting.
Pleased by the fact that these hearings have, by and large, taken place without a hitch. Commission counsel and all counsel showed flexibility, innovation, and creativity. This didn't just happen. I asked for everyone to work cooperatively to ensure that the facts and information necessary for the public to understand what happened and why it happened would be elicited. And my expectations were met. Council, you all rose to the occasion, generally, and there's a bit of grumbling, but generally without a hint of grumbling. I understand most of it occurred when I wasn't there. Now, of course, there were issues, but we were able to resolve them in an appropriate manner, or again, some people don't agree with how I resolve things, but that's neither the first time that's happened to me. You'll be pleased to know. Time limits were almost always observed, subject, of course, to the regular, may I just have one more question? And that was perfectly fine. Indeed, it was appropriate to ensure that the necessary questions be asked and answered. And you probably have seen I was quite flexible with timelines within the bounds of reasonableness. So I want to thank Council and the parties for their contribution to the success of these hearings. And by success, I mean getting to have a record that can be used. I should note that there's no question that the Commission's timeframe did present challenges. There were a staggering number of documents produced by the parties in response to the Commission's requests, including by the federal government. The productions have been of critical importance to the Commission's mandate and have resulted in a level of transparency that is, if not unprecedented, I'd say it's virtually unprecedented. But the needs of the Commission to review these documents and the right of the parties to redact on various legal grounds necessarily created time constraints and challenges for all concerned. Where appropriate, the Commission challenged certain redactions, and there have been instances where the government, at the Commission's request, removed redactions. We understand there were challenges, but at the end of the day, I think the record is, as I have said, fulsome to allow for me to make the necessary findings. Par conséquent, la divulgation de documents.
Consequently, the divulgation of documents continued throughout the hearings. The councils worked constantly to make sure that documents would be put at the disposal of the parties as soon as possible. I recognize that parties had to deal with documents on short notice, and as much as possible, I accommodated the parties, allowing them to add documents to their list of documents for review and by granting them additional time for their cross-examination. And I was able to do so while respecting our timetable. And that process helped me appreciating the relevant facts and to improve my understanding of the relevant issues. The question raised by the parties also helped me, and this was very important for me.
Parties has been very much of assistance to me, and I want to thank Council for that. Et maintenant, si vous le permettez,
and now, if you allow me, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to people who worked in the hearing room and to make sure that the hearings would take place. This commission was created and the process was executed by a talented group of colleagues, and that made the task a lot easier for me.
In fact, I've sometimes think I'm no more than a puppet with a lot of puppeteers behind who are making the whole system work. And I deserve virtually no credit for all that's happened to date. It's an unbelievable team that I have had supporting me. Notre directrice exécutive,
Our executive director, Hélène Laurando, our office manager, Véronique Perrault, and her staff.
they put together this whole operation, which I think you will agree with me has been very well done in a very short period. L'équipe de gestion d'événements et de conférences.
The event management team and the technical team with Yvon Lamoureux that took care of the broadcasting of the hearings.
Technology has been amazing to allow this to happen. My co-lead counsel, who I owe so much to, as you know, Shantona Chowdhury, and she says Chaudhry, and I always make it wrong, but I'll learn. I'm a slow man to learn, but I blame it on my French, but that's not true. And Jeff Leon. My senior team of lawyers, Aaron Dan, who created really the basis for these hearings, who's not here with us today, but is back in Toronto. Frank Au, Gord Cameron, Natalia Rodriguez, Dan Shepard, and Gabrielle Poliquin, who I'm happy to report is quite well, and will be involved next week. My regional lawyers, Mana Duckett, Sasha Paul, and Maya Turumi, who you have not seen here, but who were important in collecting the information which has made it into the record from the various border blockades out west. And the two you probably know best, Eric Brousseau and John Mather, my God, have they been good. They have put out more fires than the fire department. And they also had other duties you might not believe. They were doing this part-time, running this hearing. But I'm greatly indebted to them. And then the team of lawyers, some of which you've seen, I guess most of them, or if not all of them you've seen, Stephen Armstrong, Misha Boutier, Sajeda Hedarali, Alexandra Hine, Nusra Khan, Etienne Lacombe, Alison McMahon, Jean-Simon Schoenholtz, Dalia Schuheiber, and Guillaume Sirois-Gingras. And yeah, they're at the beginning of their career by and large, but boy, are they competent and hardworking once again, I must say. Couldn't have done it without them, and I'm also going to lean on them to help me in the next phase a bit, but I'm sure they'll be happy to help. I'd also like to recognize our policy advisors, Mark Fryman, Mark Pritchard, and Mark Sandler, our communications advisors, Michael Tansey and Marie-Claude Gagné, our public input team under Patrick Pilon, Madame Registrar, Stacy Huber, Ms. Lynn Mahoney, and our document clerks from Heuristica, who amazed me with their ability. And it's to make documents seemingly appear from nowhere, but also the challenge. You don't know the half of the problems getting all the federal documents from their system to our system to what, I won't go there. Our translators, transcriptionists, and interpreters, they have been incredible, and some of you made their life very difficult. You know who you are. Our research council, who guided and continue to guide the policy aspects of the commission and planned the roundtables for the policy hearings next week. Geneviève Cartier, chair of the council, Jamie Cameron, Michel Galland, Nomi Claire Lazare, Kent Roach, Clifford Shearing, and Jocelyn Stacey. And finally, our security team and the staff of Public Service and Procurement Canada and Library and Archives Canada, they've all worked to make, again, this whole hearing go well, made us feel safe, made us feel welcome and comfortable. I think that that team, those three teams are important to have to this, bringing this together. Now, before closing, I want to address the people of Canada in two respects. I was delighted that approximately 9,500 Canadians took the time to make a submission through our public input process. These submissions were most helpful to me and our council team to understand your observations, experiences, and ideas. They contributed to making this a truly public inquiry. It was important for the Commission to hear from the public and understand the views of Canadians. I now have that understanding to provide an important backdrop for the Commission's mandate. It's fair to say, if you've gone through that document, that this is a very divisive issue at the root of this whole convoy and what has come out of it. And I think this process, I hope, will be of assistance to people to understand and move forward. It is truly humbling to me to be involved in this. I can assure you, it's I would almost say overwhelming to see the interest, the concerted response from people. I wasn't looking for fame and fortune, but I think I'm kind of stuck now to be at least a figure at some neighborhoods. Je remercie aussi le peuple canadien de l'intérêt.
I also thank all Canadians for their interest in the Commission's work, and thank you for the confidence that you put in me to undertake this significant inquiry. It is a privilege and an honor to serve as a commissioner. We have a lot of work to do to prepare and finalize our report. I assure you that we will keep doing all that is possible to bring you the answers to the questions that were raised by the mandate. You deserve nothing less than that.
All that is possible to bring forward the answers to the questions raised by our mandate. And as I said at the outset, they deserve nothing less. So thank you and good evening. I now declare these the fact hearing portion closed. I may not see a lot of you now that we move to the next phase, given that the submissions will be in writing, but I do feel I've made some friends, maybe some enemies too, but I like to think I've made some friends because virtually all of you I did not know. And it has been a very, very pleasant experience. And thank you all for tolerating me. And my I guess, difficult task is always is still in front of me. Thank you very much.